whenever we went out for a beer, every beer had its own glass. And every time they poured the beer, they poured it into the glass. And then when they put the bottle down, they would automatically spin it so that the name on the glass and the label on the bottle was facing towards you. So that's basically where the word spin the bottle service comes from, or the title. And we called it Hospitality in the Age of AI as a subtitle because it was trying to figure out technology here, because it actually was just showing, it showed us that the magic moments of personal interaction between customer and employee in a hospitality business are becoming fewer and shorter. So last year when COVID hit, I even read the CEO of one of the big hotel companies said, we're going to speed up our digitalization program so that you can book online, you can check in online, you can use your phone to open the door of your room, you can order everything from room service online, you can check your bill online, you can check out online, and you can leave, and you won't. It will be much safer because you won't have to interact with our staff. And that got us thinking, so really you're in the hospitality business and it's dangerous for your customers to interact with your staff. And so we thought, digitalization is necessary and it will help transform a lot of businesses by speeding processes up, helping with search and transactions and all that kind of stuff. But for all the travel we did, the trips we remembered the most were not the most fancy places and definitely not the places that had the best apps. It was the places you had the best interaction with people. And so that's how the book ended up becoming a collection of stories of these personal interactions that they're the trips and the experiences that we remember the best from all of our years of travel. So that's the long answer to your short question, Matt.
I love it. And it kind of really does answer the next question, but why? And I was wondering if there's anything else in terms of really what drove the two of you to really come together and share your stories like this with the world.
Yeah, I think it was partly frustration to the fact that we were kind of stuck here, right? We've traveled so much the last 20 years. It just, a lot of it was in connection with my work. It was part of my job to travel. We were fortunate that Kirsten had the flexibility with her work that she could join me or tag on a weekend or something like that at the end of a trip. And so a lot of it was, just frustration. Or not even that frustration, I call it. I'd say we were just reliving the experiences.
Exactly. We were just looking at the pictures, as I said before, and got back to that experience. And what you said with the spin the bottle service, that it's the interaction between the guest and the servant or the hospitality people that is so important, and that gives that great experience that you don't need. When we have been in a 5-star hotel, it wasn't really fun because we didn't have the interaction. So
some places get a little cold and stuffy. And also, I think one of the things that we noticed was when things started, because in BC we were lucky. We only had a really short period where we were locked down, where we couldn't go to restaurants and things like that. But when they started to reopen, I remember we got an email from one of the chain restaurants saying, "Oh, we missed you. Please come back. We're reopening in Kelowna, blah, blah, blah." And so we went there, and nobody there had missed us, right? They didn't know they missed us. So they're running the AI and the digitalization is spitting out all this stuff. And we got there, and the server, number one, he had no idea that we'd been there a number of times before. Number two, he was mostly trying to tell us that I don't really want to work here. I'd rather be working someplace downtown. So if you ever hear of anything, let me know. Which was, again, that's not what hospitality is really all about. And so that's when we started to think, hey, we we should take all that experience that we have and try to share it with a wider group, because there is a need for hospitality, for sure.
Yeah.
We live in a perfect place for it, and let's go for it.
I love it. Well, we do live in the perfect place for it. So that said, when you think of like who out there could benefit from reading this book, from the CEO or who would you recommend this is a must read for?
Yeah, so I think when we started, we were thinking a lot about maybe younger people that were starting out in the industry, and is this something for me? How do I do it? What can I do? And I think we started to think, well, maybe it's better for middle management or management to look at how do they do things, and see if they can find new ways of doing the same old thing. But it's kind of spiraled a bit as well, because we've been approached now by a global home electronics company that has put it on their recommended reading list for their enterprise leadership program. So whoever wants to read, it's fine with us, right? So
I love it.
We didn't really target a specific
It's all
group.
groups of people. It's even the people who wants to travel, but also I work in a service-minded environment too, and they are also where I work. It's needed that you do good service, that you do the extra for the clients you have, that you just don't do it as a robot, but you do go the extra step.
Yeah, and do the things that computers can't do.
Yeah.
So, expressing real gratitude. A computer can't do that. It can say that it's doing it. The answering machines always say, thank you for your call. It's really important to us. But the computer doesn't actually mean that. It's just, so our thing was, let's bring it back and let's make it real again, and show how easy that really is.
I love it. Great answer. So how can hotels and restaurants implement this spin the bottle service?
Yeah, so it's not rocket science, right? It's not even science. So it's more about the human side of things. And in the book, we've separated out into different sections, and at the end, we have kind of a system where if you're running that kind of a business, and another good target group for us would be people that want to be Airbnb hosts, for example. They might not really know. They might have a nice place that they want to rent out, but they might not actually know how to turn that place into a good hospitality business. But so we separated it out. But at the end, we have some checklists and tools that people can use to have a look at. Okay, what have I done with my business, and what can I do with it? So it's not about telling people what to do and how they should do it, but it's giving some real life examples of things that have worked, and then giving them some tools and questions that they can ask themselves to see, can you ask yourself these questions, and will the answers prompt you to find new ways or better ways of doing things in your business? Because it's individual, right? It's really individual. It has to be tailored to the guest, has to be tailored to the business. And, that's why I think, like the chain restaurant, they'll struggle because they're trying to make every place do the same thing the same way. And that's really not what's going to make people remember you.
Right. That's interesting. So, because you kind of hit on this, because spin the bottle service isn't just for hotels and restaurants. And I'm wondering how, what you were talking about in the book can be extended to non-customer facing roles, or even to other industries, Airbnb, which is very similar, or even other industries outside of what the traditional hotel and restaurants.
Yeah, so we're going to have to figure that out pretty quick, because we've been approached by this global home electronics company. But no, it's exactly what they said. They said, because the guy that reached out to us was head of global talent development at this company, and he was on our list of early readers, so he'd seen an advanced copy. And he said, this is just what we need to do internally. It's a lot of their business isn't really facing the end customer. They're facing internal customers that are selling their products or designing their products or whatever, manufacturing their products, because that's all done in different overseas locations. So his thing was, we can learn the emotional side of this, the connection that you need, the relationship. Building emotional relationships is one of their key transition factors. And so he felt that a lot of the stories in the book, they just line perfectly up with what they need to do in their business. So any business where there's personal interaction, which is pretty much every business, could use these kind of tools to improve the way they treat each other and the way they run their business, basically.
I love it. So what other plans do you have for Spin the Bottle service?
Yeah, so another one that we've been looking at, unless you want to say it, but we've also been approached by, there's a professor at the University of, International University of Monaco, is going to use it as her go-to book of examples for her students in luxury hospitality management. So we'll be reaching out to a lot of educational institutes that offer tourism or hospitality management courses, because as she said, she's been teaching for quite a long time now, and said, I've been making up examples all the time, but now here are real, true life experienced examples that I can just give the book to my students and say,
read it.
This is how it works in the real world. This is how the customer reacts and thinks and experiences what we're trying to teach you here. And so, because most of the examples we use in the book are really positive examples. We believe in positive reinforcement. So it's not like, here's a good example, here's a bad example. It's mostly, we're mostly talking about, this is what works. Right. At least it worked for us. It's personal experience. We're not guaranteeing that everybody's going to have the same great experience at the same location that we did, but when we were there, that's how.
I love it. So it sounds like really this book is coming from the years and depth of experience that both of you have had. And I haven't really asked this question yet, but who are you and how did you get to where you are today?
Well, we relocated to Kelowna for nearly 3 years ago from Brussels, Belgium. We lived there for 11 years, and then we came from Copenhagen, where I'm born and raised, so I'm from Denmark. I had an education as a massage therapist, and I run my own clinic in Copenhagen for 15 years. Based on I started in 1993, and I got this idea to go into massages at the job. So I ended up with 15 people employed and one of the biggest clinic in Copenhagen. Then I met Paul, and you can tell from there.
Yeah, and I always tell people that I grew up in Kelowna, and so. My parents, who are listening in on the call today, they gave me a one-way ticket to Europe as a high school graduation present in 1978. And I took the hint, so I stayed away for 4 decades. So I turned my gap year into 40 years in a week. And while I was away, I had a 30-year career at a company that didn't want to hire me, because my first job in hospitality was as a night security guard in a hotel. And so I kind of grew up with that company. I stayed with the same company for 30 years. They didn't want to hire me to begin with, but there was only one other applicant, and he withdrew, so they were stuck with me, kind of. And so I just learned the business from the inside, both on the security side and on the hospitality side. And one thing just kind of led to another. So the company grew, and I grew with the company, and then I left in 2018. I was global vice president of safety and security for that company. So the work that I did for them took us all over the world. So
when you were in Brussels, I worked for the biggest fitness club in Brussels, Aspria, and I worked in the spa, and that was a really good experience for me because there you also it was spin the bottle service actually, because I worked for I was a freelancer, but I worked for Aspria. That was my concept. I mean, I was working for them, and I was doing a lot of stuff, promoting. They have restaurants, and they had fitness, and they have swimming pools and tennis, and you know the spa was kind of in the middle, and then we promoted it. So that's going the step further also. Yeah, and then now we're here, and I have my little clinic here in Kelowna, and we have a very good website called alwayscare.ca. So there you can see all of our stuff. So.
Yeah.
Awesome, and highly recommend check that out. Alwayscare.ca. We'll put that into the chat if anyone. So I've got to ask. So you got all this experience. You've packed this book with a ton of great stories. What's your favorite story in the book?
We talked about this. Thanks for asking that surprise question, man. We talked about it before, and I think our favorite together was a story from a steakhouse in New York. We were in New York 2015, 16, 17.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter when we were there, but we were in Greenwich Village one evening, just having dinner in this little restaurant, which was fine. And a guy came over and he said, so how's your meal and how long are you staying in New York? And then it turned out he owned that restaurant, which was nice. Mm. And then he said, do you like steak? And we said, yeah, we like steak. And he said, he's fishing around in his pocket and he pulled out a business card and he wrote in almost illegible writing, 1 free bottle of wine. And he said, this is my other restaurant. If you come to this restaurant, you'll get a free bottle of wine. Just give him the card. And we thought, oh, that's nice. And I said, you know, tomorrow's our last day in New York. And he said, well, if you come tomorrow, I'll be there. And so the next day when we got up, we're looking at the card and it said K Rico Argentinian Steakhouse. And so we went there, booked it, went there. And it was really a nice steakhouse, right? New York steakhouse. And they sat us down. The waiter comes over and asks us if we wanted a drink, and I fished out the card and kind of sheepishly said, we came because we're going to get a free bottle of wine here. And he just handed me the wine list and said, yeah, what would you like? So it wasn't like, you know, you get the house wine, the cheap stuff that they're knocking up as fast as they can. It was like, just choose. And well, I think we wanted to be a little bit polite and careful, so we picked like a not too expensive wine. And then the guy comes out that we'd seen the day before, and he's wearing an executive chef's uniform. Mm-hmm. And he said, did you get, he said, oh, you came. This is amazing. He said, I give out thousands of cards a year. Nobody ever comes. The place was actually packed, so some people come.
It was a good place.
Not the people with the cards, apparently.
Yeah.
He said, did you get your wine? And I said, yeah, we just ordered it. And he went over to the bar, talks to the bartender, and the bartender shows him the bottle, and he's like, nah, put that one back. Gets a better bottle of wine, brings it over, and said, the waiter brings it over and said, chef thinks that you like this one better. Long story short, he
came with the food we had not ordered.
Yeah, we didn't. We saw the size of the steaks they were serving. We're thinking, okay, we'll skip this starter and maybe we can share dessert. And suddenly 2 starters land on the table. I said, there must be a mistake here. And the guy's like, no, chef thought that you might like to try these. The steak that he gave us, it wasn't really on the menu. He asked us if we like bourbon, and we said, yeah. And he said, I do my own dry aging. He said, I got some bourbon infused ribeye. So if you'd like that, I can fix that for you. It's not on the menu, but he told us what it would cost. And so we ordered that, and it was amazing. And when took one bite of it, he said, so what do you think? He said, and we said, it's amazing. He said, no, wait here. Don't take another bite until I'm back. And he comes back with 2 shots of bourbon, and he says, you take a little piece of steak and then a little sip of the bourbon, and it'll just give you this explosion of taste in your mouth. they gave us 2 extra sides, the bourbon, and at the end of the evening, all we paid for was what we actually ordered. We didn't pay for the wine. We didn't pay for the starters. We didn't pay for the extra sides. And, so they went way above and beyond.
It was a magic moment.
And it was so good.
And it was like we were the queen and king. We was treated
and I'm trying
so
to figure out, we just were having a simple little dinner in Granny Smith's the day before. And suddenly this guy comes over. How does that all fit together? And the story in the book is like, okay, they gave us a freebie, right? A free bottle of wine. But they didn't limit it to like a cheap house wine or something that's not costing too much. They gave us that and a whole bunch more. But we know that that's paid for itself many times over because we've told that story to everybody we know in New York, to everybody we know that goes to New York, to everybody that likes steak. So
I've actually been.
We know that a lot of people have been there.
So
because we said this is a good place to go because it's also a really good restaurant, right? So we're not taking any chances recommending it. They did a super good job, and it wasn't only about the free stuff, but when they were giving you something, they were actually giving you something. It wasn't just a little trick to get you to come, right? Which it could have been in some other places we made.
There's also another favorite story, and that's it's called Feedback and Follow-Up Chapter. And when we came to Kelowna, and we stayed at Ramada Hotel, and there was the sales manager and city councilor Maxine DeHart, and she just took us under her wings, and it was amazing. She is an amazing woman, and she just.
Yeah, she lives and breathes hospitality, right? When we stayed there for a week while we were waiting for the keys to our place, and every morning she would come over when we were having breakfast, come over, sit down, have a coffee. And the day that we decided we had jet lag and slept in, the phone rang at 11 o'clock and it was Maxine. Hey, I haven't seen you. I didn't see you at breakfast. Are you okay? Is there anything you need? But we also noticed with her, it wasn't just because she knew us. It was when we were sitting in the restaurant there having breakfast with her, she would be talking to all of her guests, the people that she knew, and she knew why they were there, when they'd been there last time, when they were coming back, how things were going, and she really she really cares about her guests, and that's pretty much what the whole. Most of the stories in the book are about people that really care about what they do, right?
I love that. And that's so great to highlight local Kelowna. So on that theme of local Kelowna, you guys, your passports are full. You've been everywhere. Your passports have been stamped with everywhere. Can little Kelowna compete on the global stage?
Yeah, of course. Right? Because it's not about having the newest stuff or the most fancy stuff. We're surrounded by the best thing you can have for a tourism destination. We have the weather. We got the 4 seasons. We got at least usually 4 seasons. Looks like we're gonna have a long summer without a spring. But we have the nature. We have the wineries. We have the lake. We have the activities. We have everything you need. What we have noticed here is that there's a lot of room for people to think bigger. One of the things we learned from Maxine, because being in the same business, the hotels, we talked a lot about hotels, and I was actually really surprised that the hotel market in Kelowna is about 90% domestic or Pacific Northwest U.S. We don't have overseas tourists, and we don't cater to it. We haven't needed it, but we could be a way better destination if we brought that in. But to do that, we have to learn to do things a little bit differently to cater to those new markets, be them Asian markets or European markets or wherever they come from. And I think that's kind of the little thing that's holding Kelowna back, is that it runs so well by itself that there hasn't been like this drive to think, hey, can we do this a little bit better? Can we do do we really care about every single guest that comes through? Do we try to learn what is it that's going to make this person remember this place and this thing, right? And so absolutely it can happen. And you know, we have some really good properties, and there's so much to do and see here that the little thing that's missing is just a little piece, right? And usually I think it's a little bit North American that we don't probably really value how much the personal interaction can mean. We try to turn it into a transactional personal interaction. So if I'm really nice to you, you'll give me a nice tip. But that's not what it's about, right? You should try to, if you cared a little bit more about, and I think that's kind of what we focus on some places in the book as well, is that, and that we would tell any young person is like, if you get a job, don't do it for the job. Try to find out as much as you can about how that place works. Who are the customers? How is it put together? And that's when you can start seeing room for improvement and things like that. That's what my whole career was like that. I never looked upon myself as being a security guard in a hotel. I was a hotel employee that stood in the lobby all night, but what I really felt I was doing was trying to make that hotel better.
And I have a great story because it was the first of the dates nights, and you invited me on the top restaurant in Copenhagen, at a fancy restaurant, and we went to the dessert, and then suddenly your phone rang, and then I didn't see him for an hour or two. Because they called you because there was something going on in the kitchen or something. So
I think there was a plane that was delayed or canceled at the airport. So it was a big hotel. It was a 550 room hotel with conference facilities for about 2,000 people. So we had a lot of space. So when there was cancellations and things at the airport, especially I think this is probably late in the evening, they would phone from the airport and bus 300 passengers over to the hotel, and we would feed them and
so he was down in the kitchen
keep them company until they could get back to the airport and fly out, or if they had to stay over, they could stay over. But if we had, so you would just mobilize a little army of people from housekeeping and different departments, and there was a system set up that I phoned the executive chef and he told me where to go, and that there was trolleys set up. We could just, throw down 1,000 pieces of bread and making sandwiches for these people, right? And that was like, it gels the team a lot when people are working together to do something a little out of the ordinary. Yeah.
Right. Oh, I love it. I love the story.
She was still there when I got back. So.
That is awesome. And you're still stuck with him, which is awesome. This is so cool. Yeah. So, okay, how did you go from, some people with an idea to now accomplished published authors? I'd love to hear the process on that.
Yeah, well, big shout out to our publisher, How to Conquer. Yes. They're based in Atlanta. And I knew the owner of the company through another business, and so once we had more or less a lot of these stories put together, we fired it off to them and said, well, what do you think? And they said, they thought it was worth writing. This is probably, September, October last year. So we're thinking, it would be everybody's Christmas presents taken care of now, right? But then they send us back, okay, this is a process. And we have learned so much. And I'm so happy that we decided to approach a publisher and not self-publish, because it is a big process, and everything from design and layout and editing and reorganization of how to put things together, the suggestions to, put some annexes in to give people tools that they can actually turn these stories into their own form of spin the bottle service was also it's just super good. And so the process was a lot more detailed than what we thought it would be. It's more than just typing words into a computer, right? And then, hey, we wrote a book. No, it was a big thing, and the marketing and distribution, because we have friends and things all over the world that we hope will buy the book. But how do you get it to them, right? So we're not gonna print them here and send them off in the mail somewhere, because that wouldn't work. So learning all those things, how they've done all that and helped us with all that, has been a huge weight off our shoulders and helped us immensely with that. So that was kind of the process that we went through. But I think that the most important thing for an author is to first write the book and then try to find a publisher. Don't go to a publisher with a good idea, because maybe you're not a good writer, right? So I think publishers like to get some kind of manuscript or part manuscript, so they can actually judge, is this something we want to spend time and resources on, because they do spend a lot of time and resources on that.
Here's a question for you. From the whole process of putting your thought down to paper to then going to a publisher, has anything throughout that whole process stood out for you or surprised you at all?
Any one thing?
Yeah.
That's a hard question. What do you think?
I think it's been an experience, actually. It was a good experience.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that you just haven't thought about, like cover design, right? Hadn't thought about that. And
and go from that it was a drawing, not a picture, that, okay, yeah, that's fine.
Exactly. And so those kind of things. And even right up to yesterday, the book was released yesterday, and learning how automated distribution channels are absolutely fantastic, but they're absolutely not perfect either, right? So we discovered that in Canada, it was selling on Amazon, the paperback, for $60, right? Which wasn't what we thought it would be selling. That's all fixed now, but probably because there's automation in the process and just the way Amazon and things are structured. They're again, having a publisher and having people that are looking at that kind of side of things and following up to make sure everything actually ends up being correct, because it was the same situation in Europe, where there was one country was priced 3 times higher than all the other countries that use the same currency. So those things were surprising. I thought, Amazon, so you give it to them and they take care of it. But Amazon isn't Amazon. It's a lot of different Amazons, and it's a lot of outside companies as well that get involved there, right? So again, surprising to learn that you need to either follow up yourself or have somebody that's looking at those things and making sure that everything that's automatically going to be sorted out on when everything's released, that it's actually quality checked and made sure that it is correct. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you. So I'm curious, what else are you working on these days?
Yeah, so you run your own massage business.
I have my Mox's massage, and then you have yours.
Yeah, and I also, when I left Radisson in 2018, I left in June. In May 2018, my counterpart at Hyatt left Hyatt, he retired. And in April 2018, our counterpart at Intercontinental Hotels left Intercontinental Hotels. And so we were all locked into non-compete clauses and things like that for a year or two. But so end of 2019, we got together and said, hey, we should set up our own company and see if we can help out all the hospitality companies that don't have expertise in our area. And then we brought in a person that's an expert in business resiliency and basically business operations, so the brains behind that part of our business, and a cybersecurity expert, and then just now we brought in a safety expert as well. so that we can help out. We thought we'd be helping out companies that didn't have internal resources, but our first larger client is one of the global hotel groups that should have had their own resources, but apparently didn't, or at least after COVID didn't have it. But we also do some work for the UN and other government organizations. When we were together, we founded a hotel security working group through the U.S. State Department. But now that we're not in U.S. companies anymore, we're our own companies, we felt that we could support non-U.S. groups as well, U.S. groups too, but expand a little bit on that through UN and EU and other missions like that, because the hotel industry is sorely lagging when it comes to safety and security, unfortunately. When bad things happen, they'll tell you it's the most important thing, and they give it their utmost care and attention, all that, but it doesn't show up in their budgets or their business plans or anything. So there should be a lot more collaboration and support. And back to the Kelowna thing as well. We are a super safe destination, but I think if Kelowna wants to compete on the global stage, there has to be more collaboration in Kelowna with the region, with the province, with the country. And you have to look at it as it's not us against the world or us against the competition. It's the more we can do to make our industry better wherever we do it and whoever we collaborate with, the more we'll become known for that. And it's not about out competing the other guys. It's about, I would almost say, out collaborating the other people. Go out and find out what they're doing and ask if you can help. Like chefs are excellent at that. They travel around, they work in different countries. They'll go into the kitchen, share recipes, do all that stuff. It makes everybody better, right? Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that we want to do. Us as Always Care, but also my other company, North Point, we want to make everybody better, everybody safer, just by working together and not, trying to be us, we're better than you kind of thing, because nobody wins in those kind of games. Right. You end up with everyone just tries to undercut the other people's prices or something like that, and you get a downward spiral, whereas collaboration can it builds like ripples on the water, right?
Right. Love it. So you were mentioning Kelowna earlier, so I want to circle back. Can you share a local story about some exceptional service you might have received here in the Okanagan?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
a lot.
There's and we're going there tonight actually. When we finish here, we're going to Skinny Duke's for dinner, right? And so last year when we were we'd been going there for a while, but it was our last meal before they closed all the restaurants down. And I remember our server on the evening, she said, "Yeah, I'm probably going to lose my job next week." And we thought, that's really too bad and things. She said, "But we're so lucky to be alive now, because think of how much we're going to learn by going through. Nobody's gone through this that's alive before." And we just thought, what a wonderful attitude, number one. And then when they reopened for takeout only, they limited their menu to pizzas for takeout just to see how it would work. And the first day they opened, they had a pizza called the Mox that they named after us, which we thought was really cool. But they'd always been like that. All the servers, they'd always been like that towards us. The first time we were there was one that said, she said, "I want to get to know your names, because I'm trying to learn as many guest names, many customer names as I can." And she's still there, and a lot of their staff are still there, which is also a little bit unusual in that business, right? And so, that's a place that we've continually gone to. It's our go-to place kind of now.
And we have another Redwood.
Yeah, Redwood Brewing, same thing. owner there. We followed him online from before he opened. And he just thought it was amazing that we actually moved here and actually came and drank his beer. And my dad thinks it's the best stout in town. So we just delivered him a 6-pack on Father's Day. But it's and it's the personal connection that you get with those people that make you remember those places. It's like, we remember Redbird as much for the owner Adam as for the taste of the beer, right? And
I love that.
We live in a great place with a craft brewery on every corner down in the brewery. So they're really good at collaborating. The breweries, they're fantastic. And that can grow into something good for Kelowna as well.
Right. I could keep asking you questions all night, but I just want to call out that Evan in the chat has just shared that he needs to close down this in about 5 minutes. So I'd love just to ask one more question and then open it up if anyone else has any questions. But with restrictions lifting, I'm curious where the two of you are most looking forward to going.
Great question. I have to share my screen again if I can.
Yes. Well,
but we know where we're going.
We know where we are going. We are going to Holland, Netherlands, Rotterdam, where our daughter lives with her boyfriend Guillermo, and it's been a tough year. That
was actually our last trip before everything shut down. We were there for Viva's 30th birthday. We're celebrating up on the screen there. February 2020. So that's definitely destination number one when we can get out and fly again.
And then I have never been to South America, so if it's possible one day, that's a destination I want to go for sure. So
I love it. Is there anything else you'd love to share with us just before we have to wrap up with Evan?
No, we're just super grateful that the library facilitates this for us, and that you spending your evening here instead of in front of the hockey game. But no, we really appreciate it, Matt. And Staples has been a super supporter of the whole process with the book. As I said, 95% of it was typed up in the co-working space there, so it's been a perfect thing for us. So. No, we're just grateful for it, and we look forward to the continued reopening and seeing some more tourists moving around our beautiful area.
Yeah,
I love it. So I just wanted to just wrap up quickly. If someone is interested in the book, where should they go?
They can get it they can go directly to howtoconquer.com, which is and the 2 is a number, so howtoconquer.com. There's a link on our website, alwayscare.ca. Most major bookstores can also order it in for you. So if you have a favorite bookstore where you live, you can go. Even the little local one where Kirsten grew up in Denmark, they can order it.
I love it.
There, so.
I love it. And Emily has thrown into the chat the link as well, so anyone's there. So I want to respect Evan needs to close down, so I want to honor that, and I also want to honor everyone's time and just say thank you everyone for coming out tonight. It was great to see everyone here. Paul and Kirsten, I wish you all the best with this. I can't wait to we can go out for a drink or go for a pizza at Skinny Duke's and have a pizza that was named after you. And for anyone who might care, it's 2-2 going into overtime. So I just wanted to give that update as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, big cheers, everyone. Big hugs, and looking forward to seeing people in person one day, and hopefully a real hug too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. Thanks,
Matt.
Big cheers. Bye, everyone.